All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Bound by Banking. We are joined with a very awesome guest, Kyle Beckman. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate having you.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we hop in and get going, why don't you take a minute or two, kind of introduce yourself and tell the viewers a little bit more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kyle Beckman, I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience at First Bankers Trust Company. We're a community bank out of the Midwest, kind of Western Illinois. Been with the bank for 6 years now. Came on as Director of Marketing and then expanded my role into having a little bit more of an influence on the customer experience side of those things. So, got a lot of good things that we've been working on and a lot of good things coming down the pipeline. So, feel pretty good about where we are.
Cool. How long you been with First Bankers Trust there now?
Yeah, so just over 6 years. I've been in this role for about a year now, coming in on it. So, like I said, a little bit of a change in the things I'm working on, and a little bit of a broader scope of work. But it's really fun. A lot of good stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
I'm feeling really happy about it right now.
That's awesome, man. Well, cool. I'm
Yeah,
glad you're able to kind of work your way up. That's always a good sign of so.
yeah, appreciate that.
Very cool. All right, well, let's hop into it. I got a couple questions here for you. Just want to hear your thoughts, your insights, and things like that. So we'll hop right into question one I got for you is what advice would you give to another bank or per se credit union or any other financial institution who's looking to grow without worrying or trying to stress out about burning out? Because that's I think a real problem that people deal with is like you want to grow, you want to expand, but burning out it's a real life thing. So how would you go about that?
Yeah, it's huge. It's really important. I think when you think about your employees, I think mental and emotional health, work-life balance, all of that is key. And I honestly don't think enough businesses focus on that. And I think there's a big trade-off to that. And I think, when you can manage capacity for your team and make sure that they're feeling good about the work that they're doing and making sure they're not feeling burnout, that has a positive impact on the way that they interact with their customers, right? And that leads to a positive experience for them, and then that ultimately leads to the growth, right? So how do you actually manage that or take care of those people? Because there's no shortage of work, right? Our marketing department is physically pretty small, but we operate above capacity most of the time. But we've had to have some hard lessons. We've had to learn how to say no on a lot of different requests and do things different. And I think the advice I would give to everybody is that you really just need to take the whole wide range of opportunities in front of you and really hone in and focus in on the ones that are most important, right? What moves the needle for your people, whether that's employees or customers. And I think there's a really focused and tactical way to manage your capacity, and then being able to just say no to people. There's tons of analogies to, like, you can't boil the ocean. How do you eat a whale? It's one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Things like that. And like, I think for us, the one that I usually use is like, you've got to move 100-pound rock from one side of the room to the other. Is it easier to pick up all 100 pounds and try to do it at once, or is it easier to take 1 pound and do that 100 times? Right.
Yep.
So breaking it out and just being focused. And I think that's going to help people with their capacity management. And then I think the other thing is just, at the end of the day, it's hard to clock out, right? It's hard to stop and know, like, hey, I'm almost done with this. But I think at the end of the day, if you can look at a task that's on your list and say, is this going to affect the business if it gets done tomorrow instead of today?
Yep.
And I think if you can be honest with yourself about that, I think that helps too. So those are some of the things that we do on our end to just make sure that we're, like I said, managing the emotional and the work-life balance and the mental health side of those things, so that we're not burning out.
Yeah. No, and I think that's such a huge priority is one, just the prioritization of what are the bigger tasks that are at hand that, okay, may take a little bit longer, like that big 100-pound rock. Okay, it's going to take a lot of effort to move this versus some of the smaller things that are only a pound. And so being able to prioritize that and shift your focus accordingly. And, I think the mental focus as well, the mental health is a huge thing. I've seen companies that have built-in mental health days to where it's like, you're not sick, you're not on vacation, but like you need a mental health extra day just to kind of recoup and, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. So I think that's something that, maybe some other companies may start incorporating as well, because I think
Yeah.
it's a big
Yeah.
part.
If you can take care of yourself and your
Hmm.
own mental health, you'll be better off taking care of customers.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a good point. So
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this one. How do you go about innovation there at your bank without losing focus on the fundamentals? Growing up, sports and things like that, fundamentals are such a core part of the business and the bank. But
Right.
obviously, innovation, coming up with new ideas, that's how you grow. So how do you balance that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to not lose sight of those fundamentals. I mean, at the end of the day, the key thing that banks are doing is you're really providing like service and stability to your customers, right? And
Yep.
anytime there's a new innovative piece of tech or software or the next golden opportunity comes out, it's really shiny and exciting. It's really easy to want to jump on that, right? And there's a lot more that really needs to go into those considerations. And you've got the compliance side, right? That's a really important one. You have to worry about fraud potential, those types of things. But I also think when it comes down to it, when we think about innovation is does it make life better for the customer?
Yep.
And if it doesn't, are we really making sure we're putting our resources in the right place? And again, going back to like being focused and just tactical about that with the things that you're working on a day to day to avoid burnout, it's kind of the same way in the innovation side, right? Like there's a million things I could want to do and I want to implement it fast and I want to do it now, but that can also distract you from the fundamental side of just providing good customer service, right? Being
Yep.
available when your customers need you, making sure you're mitigating and avoiding risks for the bank and for your customers. So I think it's really important that you consider new opportunities as they come through and weigh how that'll fit with the overall operational aspect of your business. But at the end of the day, you just can't lose sight of the foundational piece of it. Otherwise,
Hmm.
you're going to end up drifting further away from that relationship you've got with your customers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I've heard somebody say one time the fundamentals of any business are like the foundation of a house. Like
Yeah,
this are things that cannot move, cannot be replaced. Like they're integral for the structure of the property. Whereas, okay, furniture, paint, different appliances, that's that
yeah,
innovation that you can change up and try new things. And so I think
right,
that's kind of that mindset that you have to have is like, okay, there are certain things that cannot be changed, like the core
right,
focus, but what are some new things we can try to change it up and say, okay, is this profitable? Is it working? Is it something that our consumers like or not? So,
right. And you're right. I mean, you don't want to build a house on a shaky foundation,
yep.
right? So at the end of the day, I could throw all the money in the world at some new tech opportunity or whatever it is, but if our foundations and the way we operate with our people within the walls, if that's not good, it doesn't matter what you invest in.
Yeah.
It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Love it. Good point. So, okay,
Awesome.
got another one here for you. What is a misconception that people outside of the industry might still have about kind of the modern banking? I know the old joke, people used to give away free toasters when you open up an account. So I think
Yeah.
things have changed a lot since then, but what are some of those misconceptions people still have?
Yeah, I think it for me it's that people have this misconception that community banks are just lagging behind. And
Hmm.
I don't believe that. I know certainly for us, I know the things that we're working on and the things that we've implemented over the past couple of years. Um, and I feel like for us, we're kind of in that sweet spot between,
Hmm.
your great grandma's bank and these mega banks and these fintechs right now because we have more tech available for our customers and more self-service and things like that that they probably wouldn't expect from a community bank per se. But
Hmm.
we also have that personal aspect that you wouldn't get from a big bank that doesn't know their customers, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're in kind of a unique space where with community banks, and it's not just us, but industry wide, there's a willingness to invest in opportunities and technology to make the customer experience better. But with community banks, you also have more of an awareness around risk, right? So like
Yep.
at the end of the day, customers like you get a bank not because it's flashy and cool and going to go up on your Instagram, right? You get a bank because
Yeah.
it's stable and secure, and I know that my money and my accounts are taken care of because I worked hard for that. So I think for community banks, it's if you look around and really dig deeper, there's a lot of community banks that are really working on innovation and investment and
Yeah.
doing the right things, but they're also doing it in a tactical way that's mitigating some of that risk that you might find elsewhere. So I think that's one thing that's a misconception. And I think part of it is like, how many banks do you see, that community banks that will tout like, hey, we've been in business for 150 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. But these banks are also not operating the same way we did 150 years ago,
Yep.
right? Like
Yeah.
our bank is about 80 years old right now, and the way we banked it at inception is not the way that we're banking right now. And I think that's a constant evolution, and I think that's just one thing where people think, all right, 150 years old or 80 years old, it's great grandma's bank, right?
Yeah.
And it's just not it's
Yeah.
just not the real way of how it looks right now for community banks.
Yeah. Well, and I think for banks to last, decades like that or even centuries, like you've got to stay on top of innovation, like we were just talking about.
Right.
You've got to be able to adapt and change. And,
Yeah.
I think a long legacy like that can prove to people that, like, hey, we truly care about our customers. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of. We're going to have new tools and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Because I was actually talking to somebody in the same series a few episodes back that community banks are a little bit more agile and can change a little bit more quickly and adapt because it's not just a boardroom of higher execs who don't truly understand what the consumer is looking for. They're a
Right.
little bit more closer to that end user, and so because of that, they still have the same technology. They're quicker to turn around, things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on. And I think for us personally, we're pretty fortunate. Our executive leadership and our board of directors, they're all very in tune with
hmm
opportunities, with investing in innovation and investing in our people and doing things that they see, long-term vision of where we're going to be and how we're going to keep growing. And the success we've had is great, and we're going to keep building on those things, but we're also going to keep an eye to opportunities that are going to help take another step further.
yeah, that's what it's all
Yeah,
about. That's what it's
that's
all
right.
about. So cool. All right, got a last question here for you, Kyle.
Okay.
So, what does sustainability growth actually look like for a community bank in 26? I know we've kind of touched on it, but how do you sustain that growth moving into the next year, 3 years, 5 years, and beyond?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of the things that we've talked about so far, right? I mean, I think it's tactical and focused investments and opportunities and technology where it's a good fit for your customer. I think that you'll hear a lot about rates right now, right? Everybody wants the best rate. Rates
hmm
are still high compared to where they were during COVID. And that stuff's just going to take some time and some patience, but eventually that stuff will kind of settle in and it'll course correct. um, Not to say we won't see spikes again in the future, but I think when you think about sustainability, it's kind of that same concept of not necessarily what are we going to do today, but where are we going to be at in 5 years, 10 years or
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
And then what's the focused and tactical approach to take one step forward, right? So how do we get one step closer to that end goal? And then again, like going back to the fundamental piece and the foundational piece is really where it's at, right?
Yep.
If you don't keep your focus on that and get a good understanding of where your customers are and what their needs are, you're not going to position yourself for growth that's going to last. And I think that's where, again, like community banks like us, we're kind of in a good sweet spot where we're trying to balance the customer experience with fraud risk and making sure that our investments are tactical and focused and not just throwing money to the wind at the next new opportunity that comes in. So um, just kind of blending all those aspects is, I think, what's going to ultimately help community banks, continue to grow, but also keep it,
hmm
like you said, sustainable over the long term.
Yeah. Well, just like anything in life, I think it's a balance of
Right.
where's that perfect balance point? Okay, sometimes you may lean a little bit more one way or the other, or vice versa, but as long as you can keep that balance and keep moving forward, growth is
Yeah.
inevitable at that point. So,
Yeah. Yep. And if you do right by people,
yep.
do right by your employees and your customers, a lot of those things will take care of themselves. But again, you have to keep your focus as a business in the right place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, cool,
Yeah.
man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on today. Those are some great points from you. So I appreciate you answering some of my questions for me. So excited for it, and wish you guys all the success, and continue moving forward with everything. So
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on and having the discussion with me. So appreciate
yeah,
that.
it was good. So all right, appreciate it.